Welcome to the Animal Training Academy Making Ripples podcast show, the show where we share the stories of the ripple-making extraordinaires with behavior nerd superpowers who make up the Animal Training Academy membership. I'm your host and one of the happiness engineers at Animal Training Academy, Shelley Wood from Drop Your Jaws Dog Training in Cape Girardeau, Missouri in the United States. We're absolutely thrilled and grateful to have you here with us today. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single episode. This show is brought to you on behalf of the Animal Training Academy membership. So if you like the conversations in these episodes, then we want to invite you to continue them with like-minded people in the ATA membership, which you can find out more about at www.atamember.com. Within the membership, you can get access to twice monthly live web classes, the back catalog of previous web class replays, plus a huge library of videos and projects to help you problem solve your training challenges. And we're a sociable bunch with an exclusive private Facebook group and forums area. It's like a Netflix social media platform for animal behavior geeks. Linda has always felt a strong connection with animals. Her early interest in behavior studies quickly paired with her love of animals to build a career in animal training that has spanned more than 40 years and is still going strong. Linda was in the right place at the right time to attend behavior and training-related classes through the Life Learn program at the Ontario Veterinary Collage, University of Guelph, Canada. She considers herself very fortunate to have attended many in-person clinics with Karen Pryor as she was presenting with Gary Wilks in the late 1980s. Over her long career, Linda has attended countless clinics, webinars, and workshops. She reads extensively and is always seeking opportunities for further education, knowledge, and growth. Linda's motto in life is only connect, and she continually seeks deeper understanding and abilities in this goal with both people and animals. When not working, Linda attends master classes on a diverse range of subjects spanning from rocket science to resilience to storytelling. She studies music, unrealistically hoping to be a great jazz musician one day. I think that Miha really liked that part. Yeah. And she spends quality time with her dogs and takes every opportunity to spend time in the wilderness, hiking and kayaking. Welcome, Linda. I'm excited to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for agreeing to join me. You are one of the first people that I remember, quote unquote, meeting in the Animal Training Academy community back when I joined. And I know that you and I are both in a couple of other animal training and behavior related groups together as well. And I'm just always really impressed with everything that you have to share, the way that you relate to both people and animals. And so I've wanted to get you on the show for a while, and I'm excited to have you with us sharing about your 40 years worth of knowledge, 40 plus years worth of knowledge and experience.
Well, I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And my dogs are very excited that you're here as well. So luckily, I'm going to be muting soon, but I'd love it if I could get you started off or get you to start us off today with telling us a little bit about your journey, a little bit about maybe your early days in animal training and kind of how you spend your days with the animals now.
Okay. Well, yeah, as I think I mentioned in the bio, I just in high school, I started studying behavior. It just has always been an extremely strong interest of mine. And my connection to animals was very strong. My father had German Shepherd dogs that he showed. My mother was very interested in animals. In fact, she was at one point studying to be a veterinarian, but had to drop out of school when my grandmother got sick. And then she just went back to become a nurse. But both my parents had a strong interest in animals. So, the animals were always around the house. And the dogs just became my best friends. And when I was a young child, I had a a collie that my dad brought home from the ASPCA in New York. And the dog was already named Sparky, so he kept the name Sparky. And this lovely tricolor collie just became my best friend. And we would just go hiking and walking, and he was just always with me. And this love of behavior and how animals were learning just grew from that. And when I graduated high school, I was awarded a fairly prestigious scholarship to study art. And I decided, despite my parents' dismay, I decided to give up that scholarship and start studying animal behavior in the best way that I could find at that point. At that point, there really weren't the college courses like we have now. So I was just so lucky to join up with a training group at that point in New York, and start attending a lot of clinics and and then they really, all of them were hands-on in person, a lot of clinics, and most of those were obedience related. And I hate to admit it, but the reality is it was compulsion methodology back then. And I was never comfortable with it. And I kept looking at I didn't know what else to do. That's what I knew. But I was continuously looking at, how do I get better timing? How do I get better communication? What should come first, the signal or the correction? I was just constantly analyzing what I was doing. And then I came upon Karen Pryor's book and read it. I think I got the first copy out. Oh my gosh, I read it immediately, and I read it again and again and again. And I am not so sure how I found out that Karen Pryor was giving clinics, because of course we didn't have, the worldwide crazy web, like we do now, way back when. That so gives away my age. But somehow I got connected with Karen's clinics, and I started traveling to Chicago and New Jersey and anywhere she was presenting. At that point, she was presenting with Gary Wilks. And it was fascinating. I couldn't get enough. I was addicted. And I started playing with these methodologies, not only with my own dogs, but with my horses, which I just loved it with the horses. And I had exotic birds, and, any of my friends who had animals, goats, horses, pigs, anything I could play with, any animal I could play with, I started, experimenting and making that transition from a compulsion methodology trainer into, more and more positive reinforcement and specific to, a kindness, with the animals, and going very much from a sense of control, looking at training as a sense of control, as opposed to really, where I am now, to a way of communication. How do I use, teaching? I hate the word training. I like the word teaching. How do I use teaching to emphasize our relationship and build on that relationship and build the trust and the cooperation and, just everything we seek in ATA, with that. So it's just, so that, that's where it all started. And it's just kept going. And I had the great opportunity to take classes through the Life Learn program at Ontario Veterinary College, University of Guelph, Ontario, Canada, and met some amazing people up there, absolutely amazing people. And at that point, Dr. Andrew Lucier, which some people may know the name, was heading the program along with Dr. Jack Hallop and Dr. Jack McEwen. And they brought in some just fabulous trainers and behaviorists and veterinary behaviorists from the UK. And at that point, I would say that, at least in my impression, the UK was by far more progressive than we were here in the US. So it was I just felt so fortunate to be there and to be able to learn from all these amazing people coming in. And even, zoo trainers, trainers you never hear of anymore, like Ted Turner. I can't tell you the last time I heard of Ted Turner, but Ted Turner gave a wonderful presentation. And Gary Priest, who was at California, the big one in the big zoo in California. Forgive me, can't think of the name. Everyone would know. I'm dyslexic, so I have pictures in my head, and it's hard for me to find words sometimes. San Diego Zoo, pardon me. Yeah, Gary Priest from San Diego Zoo. So it was just an amazing opportunity to not only learn from all these fabulous trainers and veterinarians, behaviorists, but also was really fabulous was, the other people that were there that were learning. It was just, these were the people who really were the foundation of bringing clicker training to the dog world. And forgive me for not being able to remember a lot of people's names. Some I do, because some, I'm still, Cindy Bennett, still in, in touch with on the Facebook and such. But of course, we had the Yahoo groups back then that are, boy, does that give away age, the Yahoo groups. And now we're on the Facebook groups. But it was just so cool to see how people were experimenting with this and taking it to new heights, and just their analysis of the information that was coming out, and then how they would take that analysis to another height, right? And I think that's the most exciting thing about this, this extraordinarily long journey. It's just watching the progression and where we are now to where it started, and seeing how many people have made those steps and kept building on those steps. And I think it's going to be so exciting to see how all the newbies coming out now are going to continue to build on all those steps, right? It never gets old. Forgive me, I just get so excited about this. It just never gets old. So.
It is really exciting stuff. And I was thinking as you were talking, how exciting to have been a part of all of that massive change in the industry. And we still see, I think, lots of change today, just like you were talking about, lots of exciting things happening. But I just feel like at the time when you were going and listening to Karen Pryor and Gary Wilks and all of the things that you were talking about, that these ideas would have been so new and so very different from a lot of the ways that people were interacting with dogs, that I can't help but imagine that everybody that was learning about that was as excited as you, and you had lots of people to talk to about this sort of thing. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I remember one of the sessions we had at the Ontario Veterinary College. Karen Pryor came, and she was without Gary Wilks at that time, I believe, if I remember correctly. And it was kind of like the precursor to the modern day Clicker Expo. And she had some presenters, and we broke up into groups, and just being able to talk to some of these people and to just throw ideas back and forth and just brainstorm. And we look at some of the presentations that were given then, would be like, oh, we'd laugh about it now, but that's where it started, right? If you don't start there, there's nowhere to keep growing. So there's always going to be that first step. So it's just so exciting to be there and to meet some of these people and to throw out some ideas and say, oh my gosh, I was meeting people way back when. This is back in the 80s, right? Maybe early 90s. I'd have to check all my certificates to check the dates on them. But, somebody back then, and I can't remember her name, but she was from Canada. And she was actually at that point training dogs for seizure detection completely via positive reinforcement. It's like, whoa, that was really cool. And then people like Alex Curlin came into this, and I was just a different, and you get people going in different directions, and it was just. I could go on and on. Forgive me.
No, we want you to go on and on. That's why you're here. So yay. So it's also interesting to me listening to you talk that you pursued behavior immediately. You pursued learning about behavior immediately out of high school. I think it seems like a lot of folks, especially in, 20 years ago, because 1980 was 20 years ago, right? I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. Yes.
Especially around that time, though, it seems like a lot of times people maybe they love animals, they're interested in animals, interested in behavior a little bit. They graduate and they're really not sure what to do in that area. That's changed. I think that people are more able to find avenues to pursue their interest in behavior today, but certainly not during that time, I don't think, So it seems like a really brave thing to do, to leave high school and just follow your passion right away when there maybe wasn't a clear path to do that. Or did you see a clear path to do it?
I did not see a clear path. I knew what I wanted, but I guess I didn't even know the full depth of it because there wasn't anyone, in doing it at that point. But I think one of the things I had going for me was I am an explorer. If I put one word on me, I'm an explorer. That's just what I do. And I was a member of a local training club. And so I started thinking about, gosh, I really love doing this. Because I didn't know how to get into the training end of it. I went to school and became a groomer, and I was grooming a lot of show dogs at that point, which was really interesting to get in with the show people, that end of it, and the genetics, which you and I could talk about in a whole nother group, right? But I think there, and then I had the opportunity to start teaching classes at a local veterinary hospital. And I was to the best of my knowledge, in my area where I lived in New York, I was the very first person to be privately, outside of, either working dogs or, a club setting, privately teaching obedience. And of course, at that point, it started off compulsion, and very, very quickly, because I found out about Karen Pryor, very quickly started changing over to the positive reinforcement methodology and the clicker training. And then it just grew from there. And I just kept taking class after class and traveling all over the US and Canada. I was just seeking. I could not get enough information. I couldn't read enough. I could not attend enough clinics. And very quickly, as I started finding, as I found Karen Pryor, my interest very, very quickly, found its focus from, okay, it's not the obedience clinics you want to take. How do I find more behavior clinics? And again, I just feel myself so lucky. Just talk about just being in the right place at the right time. I went to an Ian Dunbar clinic up in Toronto, a five-day clinic. And I met a very good friend of mine who is still a very good friend of mine in Toronto, who lived in Toronto. And she then told me about the classes that were going to be happening at Ontario Veterinary College. And it's like, oh gosh, I'm in. And I would go up there. I'd stay with her for the weekend, she and her husband. And I'd be taking these classes. And it was just, everything just kept, if there were an angel on my shoulder, truly, that is honest. I don't know how else to look at that. I don't know. I just was in the right places at the right time. And maybe it's just my eyes were open and I was seeking it, that I saw it when it was there, but it just kept pushing me in the right direction. And I just could not be more happy for that.
And how long have you, I think it's really cool that you were one of the first person, as far as you know, to start offering private training services outside of like training clubs and that sort of thing, if I understood you correctly, in the area where you were. How long have you been operating your own training and behavior business?
I'm going to guess 40 plus years.
That's amazing.
And I'm old.
No.
But I'm still climbing mountains, so I'm good.
Yeah, that is awesome. What a wonderful journey that you've been on. And I'm sure tons of people have been lucky to learn from you on that journey. I want to talk a little bit about something that you and I talked about previously, and I think you mentioned it in your bio. In fact, I know you mentioned it in your bio as well. And that's your life's motto, only connect. I wonder if we could maybe talk a little bit about that right now. And if you could tell us how, if your philosophy of dog training or living with dogs has changed over the years related to that motto a little bit, if there's a connection between those things, your life motto, only connect, and your sort of evolution of thinking and philosophy in the dog world.
Oh, absolutely. Before and I don't even remember where that one came in. That's been with me for quite some time. But ever since high school, and I can remember this in the middle of high school, one of the absolute truths in my life is that we are all of us are always teachers, always students. And the more we learn, the more we have to give. And that is who we should thrive to be, is keep learning, keep giving, and that wonderful rotation. And at some point, the only connect, I heard that, and it just resonated with me. And in fact, I have a little tag on my keychain that says only connect. And I have a little bracelet that my wife gave me that says only connect. And it really, I'm not good at it. I come from a family where it was somewhat abusive. It was very abusive. And, I wasn't well socialized. I don't think I have very good communication skills with humans. I tend to be very shy and I'd rather I could be in a cabin in the woods and I'd be happy. I have to push myself to learn how to communicate with people and be comfortable with people. And I do this keeps reminding me to not only with my clients, how do I get better connection with them? How do I understand where they're coming from and really connect with their goals, their pains, the things that are holding them back. But then again, with the dogs, the animals I work with, Elsa, who I when you asked for pictures, one of the pictures I sent you was of Elsa tackling me when she was maybe a year old or less. And Elsa, she was born in 7707, so she was named before the movie came out. And to me, she looked like a lion. So I'm going back to the old lion movie with Elsa, and I can't think of the name of it offhand.
Lion King, maybe?
No,
something else.
You're way too. Oh gosh, what was and it's a true story actually. A woman who and her husband who actually took a three lion cubs that were abandoned. They raised them and they actually got them back into the wild and born free. Thank you, born free. And yes, it shows my age. This is when must have come out in the 60s or early 70s, probably 60s. And Elsa was a bull mastiff. And I have had 7 bull mastiffs in my life, and Elsa was my last and will be my last. And she was beautiful. I waited forever to have a dog out of this particular breeding, and I was so excited. And the breeder loved me and wanted me to have her. I wasn't supposed to have her. I was supposed to have a boy. I've always had boys. I wanted a boy. And the night I came home from work, from teaching, I came home and on my computer, there it is. I'm supposed to leave first thing in the morning to go pick her up. And the breeder, would you mind taking the girl? I want to keep the boy to show. And my heart just dropped. I didn't want a girl. And I could tell you, I'm writing a book about this actually. I didn't want her. But the moment I met her, the moment she was mine, oh my gosh, I fell in love. And she was so scared. She was so scared. And the reason for that is that where she was born in Minnesota, that was the year of major rain and mudslides, and it was a disaster area. FEMA came in and closed down the area. She was not socialized because of all of this. So by the time I got her, she was, I think 12 weeks old at that point, no socialization outside of the 2 people who bred her. And she was very fearful. I brought her home and I had to lay on the floor for 3 days and just lay there and let her come up and sniff me and climb on me to build that trust. And she changed my world. In every way, she changed my world. She really, oh my gosh, I adore her. But it was just, I made a promise to her immediately that every single day will be better than the day before, every single day. And little by little, we started into the clicker training, and which she very much loved. I was very careful about socialization with her. I was living in an apartment setting at that point in New York, and I had to be very careful of people and their other dogs in the apartment but she was afraid of everything. She was afraid of noises, or I'd take her to the veterinary hospital where I was teaching at that point. And she was afraid of the awning coming out the door. She'd see the awning and just freak out. It took every ounce of energy I had to hold on to her to get her into the car. Or there was a restaurant that every night had, it was off at a distance, but they had those spotlights in the, in the sky. And she would see that and she would just, honestly, it's a good thing I exercised because boy, it took every bit of energy I had to hold her back and try to get her in the car, the back of my Jeep, getting her out the door. And we started working with that. And it was such a conscious effort to every moment. How do I break this down? How do I make this better? How do I build your trust? And the remarkable thing was by the time she hit 2.5 to 3 years old, you would have never known that she had all those fear issues and was afraid of people, was afraid, she turned into truly the most solid dog I have ever owned. And I got to tell you, I knew I had it when my spouse was an interim and working in Kansas. And I traveled to Kansas Kansas for the weekend, and it was the 4th of July weekend. And she had previously been frightened horribly by fireworks in the park back in Minnesota. But here we are, and it's, we thought the fireworks were down. We took the girls out, the German Shorthair Pointer that my spouse had. We took the girls out to go potty one last time, and all of a sudden a neighbor set up fireworks like right over her head, canopying over her head. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And immediately she came to my side, she sat, she looked at me, and we heeled back into the house. And it's like, my God, everything I had worked for, everything I tried to give her, that connection, and that's where that connect really came out. I have never been so connected with a dog before than I had been with her. And I think it's because I kept looking at, how do I keep supporting you? How do I keep giving you more ability? How do I take it at a level that you can succeed at? And I will never push you. I will never, ever do anything that will break my trust. I was so conscious of that. And it just, she was the most amazing, remarkable dog. And she loved stupid pet tricks. And if there is such a thing as 100% ability and recall, she had it. My spouse will tell you, I can't think of a time she did not come. Even if she was in a dead sleep and you whispered, come, she came every single time you said come. It was a big game. It was a big game with her, actually. She loved it. And I lost her early at 7 years of age because she had a heart murmur, and we could not get under control, and she kept fainting, and she couldn't go more than 2 steps without fainting. So I lost her very early. But that was really, and now it's so different with the dog I have now, Jolie, my coonhound, my lovely black and tan coonhound, who I just adore. It's so different with her. It really is. Jolie has been on and off sick since the day I got her. Came out of, again, what one would say fabulous breeding, but and I know her brother. I know her, a lot of her relatives, and they're all very healthy. But she had urinary tract infections. She had a tapeworm that obviously takes a lot of time to find that because it doesn't show up right away. She wasn't actually born. She was stuck in the canal. They had to go in and get it. There was just, she had the worst start in life. And she has had allergy issues, ear issues, gut issues, and we've, on and off. So it's a totally different relationship with her. I'm still looking at, how do I make every day, the best day for you? But she can't eat anything but a hydrolyzed food, which, okay, I'll eat it, but it's not as exciting as eating liver or something else, right? And she, because of her fears, some days she wants to go outside and go for walks, and other days, no, I'm not so sure. Some days we're okay in the park, some days we're not. We're generally okay if we walk in the cemetery. People forget cemeteries, very calm places to take dogs. So it's, the connection here is so different. We are so connected. I have actually talked to my Jolie in ways that my spouse thought I was talking to her. And I had to, and of course, stupid me, I admitted, no, honey, I was talking to the dog. I should have never admitted, of course. But, it's a whole different connection. I've been trying so hard to deal with her fear issues, but every time you get somewhere, a health issue comes back in, and it takes us back. You make 1 step forward, you go 2 steps back. So my connection with her is really a surrendering of, this is who you are. This is where we are. And if you want to train, let's train. Great, which she very much enjoys, but it's nowhere near as enthusiastic now that we just have to use a hydrolyzed food and we can't use anything else. If you want to go for a walk, we'll go for a walk. And if I have to continuously put pills down her throat and I cannot use food to do that, it's how, I'm using a desensitization process. Instead of using positive reinforcement, I'm desensitizing to, can I open up your ears and flush them out every week? I have to flush them out with a special cleanser. Can I put drops in your mouth twice a day for your allergies? Can I put pills down your throat because otherwise you'll spit them out? Can I keep going? She keeps getting little pustules on her tail that I have to clean out. Can I get the pus out of that? And forgive me, do that. But it's a desensitization process, and it's petting and it's cuddling, and it's just, I'm with you. That is my reinforcement. And the reinforcement really is the trust in our relationship. That trust in our relationship, that I'm going slow, I'm going calmly, I'm listening to her. This has to be done, but let's see if we can get in sync with this. And it's never just a, hey, let's just do it. It's always so gentle with, I don't think anyone who knows me on Facebook or any other group knows how much I love my Jolie. I adore my Jolie. And it's a very different relationship and a very different type of connecting. And it's so different from me of being a trainer who wants to train and wants to teach all these, amazing behaviors and tricks. And she's so into it. She really loves learning. But you're so halted by the inability to use anything but a very boring hydrolyzed food. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, your relationship with Jolie, I think that anybody who is in groups with you on Facebook does know, at least in part, how much you love her. I imagine we probably can't, any of us, fully know how somebody else loves another being, but it's definitely clear that you are more than devoted to Jolie, who is a beautiful dog. And I've seen you do some really, really cool stuff with her, but the coolest thing that I've seen you do with her is meet her right where she is, to meet her needs as you can, just like you're talking about right now, and to connect with her, which is just such a cool motto. I love it. And I love the only piece of the only connect, like to just focus on that. And I think you're a really good model of that with what you've done with Jolie and what you were talking about with I'm sorry, I forgot your other dog's name.
Elsa, my bull mastiff.
Elsa.
Can I interject on that? It's just, I think it's something that we can all embrace. I really do. It's just, if you think about only connect on, I don't think there's an end to all the many levels and aspects of connecting. It is just, is it a feeling of safety? Is it through communication? I can go on and it never seems to hit an end to how complex you can look at connecting with another being. And I find that to be fascinating. I'm constantly, I meditate. I meditate on that. I resonate on that. It's how far can you take that? And the time I think I have, it's like, oh no, there's another aspect. There's another aspect of connecting. It's just, it never ends.
When you were talking earlier and you said that you could live in a cabin in the woods and be happy, I wrote that down because I thought, well, but you could only connect in that way as well, right? Mm-hmm. Like you could focus on connecting to your surroundings.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a wilderness hiker and my most memorable moments are even, I love hiking with Susie, my wife, but I have been out in the wilderness alone and I can't even describe, and I'm sure anyone who has ever done that, to be in the wilderness and to actually be a part of, as opposed to above your environment, controlling your environment, to be a part of, oh my gosh. And that's what I seek when I'm training, is to be in that equal synchronicity of, are we listening? Are we communicating back and forth? And it's an amazing feeling, isn't it?
It is. And I love that thought of bringing it back to training too. When you were talking about that experience in the woods and being a part of instead of in control of, I think is what you said, or something like that. And it made me immediately think of quote unquote training and how we can come at that from different perspectives. We can come at it with, I have this behavior that I want this other creature to do, and I'm going to teach them to do that using positive reinforcement or whatever, however we're going to do that. Or we can come at our interactions with other beings as, this is a relationship, and how can I best connect to you to meet you right where you are, with me being right where I am too, Yeah,
absolutely. And I think I had a horse way back when, Joshua, my foxtrotter, and it was my first horse. And it was, that level again of, I never cared if I got on his back, which I still don't. I don't ride anymore. I used to study classical dressage, and I just, not against anyone who does. I don't mean that against, we all have our own relations. I personally just can't do that anymore. I love being on the ground. I love, Joshua and I would just wander around the farm and in and out of doorways and up and down stairs and things that you'd never thought a horse would do. He was like a puppy dog, and we just walked through the woods together. And I loved that relationship of just being out in the field and at free will, doing, training, trick training. We did a lot of trick training. He loved doing that. Or we'd play chase with each other, and I felt absolutely safe with him doing that. It's that, I think that's what I seek more than anything else is, in my, again, I don't like the word trainer. I'm a teacher. I'm teaching. What I seek with the animals that I work with and the people that I'm working with is just that equality and that connection and just, are we building and growing together?
I love it. And I'm 100% stealing your motto. It's now also my motto. So thank
please
you.
Do. Please.
Thank you. And hopefully I'm sure it will become the motto of some of our listeners as well. Moving on, I would like to dig in and talk a little bit more about some specific training scenarios. I wonder if you could share with us now, and I'm sure that you have many you could select from, but I wonder if you could share with us now about a training related challenge that you experienced and maybe, or are experiencing, and maybe a little bit about how you worked through it and some things that you learned from it.
Oh gosh, there's so many. Over 40 years, there's a lot. One of the ones that a couple that come to mind really quickly would be training a tortoise. People on ATA know that I had my beautiful Dewberry, who has just gone on to live in a situation that is much better, healthier, mentally, emotionally, physically, much healthier for her than I could offer her here. And I was just thinking about her today, and I miss her so much. I just miss her so much. But training a tortoise, and again, nobody told me I couldn't. I went to the Galapagos. I fell in love with tortoises in the Galapagos. And I must have one, which is not the way to go about it. People, please don't do that. I had this wonderful tortoise. And before Dewberry, I had another tortoise, a African spur tortoise, Darwin. And Darwin learned a number of wonderful behaviors. And one of those was actually learning how to lift each front appendage and do a high five. If I put my fingers out, she would meet, and we found out she was a girl. She would come up and she would meet me. And I have videos of this, and I wish I had more, but I have a minimal video of this. And that was an interesting training challenge. I'm thinking, how do I actually get her to lift her front appendage in that way, because she normally would not. And I figured that out just by whenever she would move her foot forward, I would be clear to put very consciously, but very carefully, put my finger right in front of it. So the moment it touched, I would mark it and I would reinforce. And I kept building on that. She got that very quickly, actually. And then we started going, can I get a little bit higher? Can I start doing it when your foot is a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher? And the big issue that came up, and one I did not think about until it happened, it was one of those like, aha, she could only do so much, and then she would fall over. Because if you think about the way a tortoise is, she lifts that appendage and her weight goes off and she falls over. So what I had to do is I actually started clicking her for first shifting her weight the opposite way and then lifting that appendage. So it was really an interesting problem solving, and she got very good at it. We actually, once we got on one side, she learned it very quickly on the opposite appendage. So we had on both front and left side. And a friend of mine who lived in the area, who is a phenomenal trainer, got involved, and she was doing it with my friend Beth, as well. And unfortunately, all those videos are lost. I wish I still had them. And we could get repetitions where she would do it over and over again. And yes, that was that's one that I am extremely proud of, because it was such a problem-solving situation. It's one that you never thought a tortoise could do. Why would a tortoise do such a thing? But it really wasn't so much that I wanted stupid pet tricks. It was like, what can you teach? What is a tortoise capable of learning? And then we moved, unfortunately, out of the situation we were in. We moved, and she was so frustrated in the yard I live now. She can't be on the yard because in order to have grass in my area, you must treat your lawn, or you cannot have grass. And we do need to have grass for the dogs. My spouse wants grass. We couldn't let let her out in the backyard, and she was so frustrated. She spent her whole day just bamming and bamming at the side of her enclosure. Although it was a very large enclosure, she wanted out. She was so frustrated. We made the choice again. Somebody I knew that, I have this wonderful farm. We have all this space. It's perfect for tortoises. I have tortoises. I'm happy to take her. So she's in Texas, and she's very happy. And then thinking, okay, well, dewberry, the species dewberry is a much calmer species. They're not as active in any way as the African spurred tortoise. Dewberry was a leopard tortoise, is a leopard tortoise. And I figured this is going to work in our house. We have enough room outside. I can build an outdoor facility where you can be outside, you can be inside. And then it turned out that she grew by far faster than I expected her to. When I gave her up, she was close to 25 pounds of picking her up. And I couldn't leave her outside. There's no way to leave her outside because of wildlife and such. And in order to build the type of building that I could walk into and still keep her warm in our extremely cold winters, it would be costing, probably $100,000 to build that kind of a barn for her, which was just not realistic between, my spouse and myself. And we had the issue of being able to take her up and down the stairs, 2 floors of stairs, because we had to keep her in the warmest part of the house. And we couldn't figure out how to do this safely. Every time we had something, she'd grow and it became unsafe. And then she'd grow and become unsafe. And I could just tell she wasn't happy. But anyway, I'm going off on tangentially on that one. But anyway, the tortoise training, and I was working on scent detection, so with her, and she got to the point where I thought she was really depressed. She gave me the impression that she just was not a happy tortoise. And I kept trying to train up until the last moment, but then somebody I knew on another group offered to take her, and she has besties now. She's in and out whenever she wants to. She's as happy as can be. We're in touch. She's as happy as can be. But anyway, the tortoises are just, I think, are really interesting. Something very interesting there. And so that really sticks out to me. Jolie, as a puppy, she had separation anxiety. She had learning anxiety. She had kennel anxiety. If she got reinforced for doing something once, she could not figure out how to do it twice. If she sat and got clicked and got a cookie, she honestly could not figure out how to sit a second time. She would get so frustrated. She would just start screaming and jumping at you and climbing all over you. And having to break that down into how can I start teaching her the simplest of behaviors so I can actually start teaching her how to learn and how to focus on learning. She was the most difficult dog I think I've ever worked with. That was another huge training challenge. And once she got there, it started flowing very nicely in the house where there were no smells because she's a coonhound. That was an interesting. I don't think I've ever met a dog who had such a learning disability as she had, and how to break things down and keep things so small and so easy and so winnable, so that she could say, "This is fun. I enjoy this." And even finding a food or a reinforcement that worked for her, because she was not very food motivated at all. She was very low food motivation when she was young. And then trying to build food motivation outside. She could sit there on leash for, I gave up after 20 minutes, but one time I sat out there, 20 minutes. Could she even flinch her head a half an inch towards me so I could reinforce something? Nope. She's just sitting there with her nose in the air and wind scenting. And I'm just like, I'm in tears. Like, where do I go with this? She's either pulling on the leash frantically. So how do I use, I started using sniffing as a reinforcement. I started to then, sniff, go, if she could just not pull, sniff. And we kept working on that. Take one step with me, sniff, look at me, take one step, sniff, things like that. And then we built up on, I am going to calmly shove a cookie in your mouth and then let you go sniff. So we started pairing food with sniffing. And now she will take food outside, and it is not the strongest reinforcement, of course, for a coonhound, but she is, wow, what a learning opportunity. And she's not the type of learning opportunity I thought she was going to be. I thought coonhound, she's going to be, the reason I went from bull mastiffs to coonhounds is, one, there was never going to be another Elsa, so I couldn't have another bull mastiff. And I just wanted a breed that was going to be really difficult. Everyone says is untrainable. Let me show you and let me show me. And this is how we ended up with a coonhound. My spouse also doesn't particularly like the drool of bull mastiffs, and coonhounds drool just as bad, by the way. But what a different challenge. I expected that I'm a coonhound. I'm going to bay. I'm going to have to put my nose to the ground. She doesn't bay. She's very quiet. She does want to put her nose to the ground, but it's all of her anxieties that she had from day one that were really the challenge in training. And how do I get past her learning anxiety? How do I get her, find reinforcers that I can use outside? How do I build on that relationship so that she feels a trust in working with me? Because she, for whatever reason, when I first got her, she would run away. If she were in the backyard, she was constantly trying to dig under the fence and run away from me, which I can assure you, there was nothing, aversive or abusive in that relationship. I just adored her. And we built on that. And then, so she in so many ways, has been such a challenge. And I appreciate that, because it's the challenges that help us grow. And I so look forward to my next coonhound, because yes, there will be another one. I know I'm so stupid, right? I will have another coonhound. But, the other thing, and I do want to throw this out. The other thing that when you talk about challenges, I am a certified separation anxiety trainer. And I did this after Jolie had her extreme separation anxiety issues. I decided to learn more and get certified. And I have to tell you, some of the greatest challenges, but also some of the greatest wow moments are from my separation anxiety clients. It's a constant day by day. You're analyzing, what they're doing, and you're in touch with them every single day. You really are. And so many of them have other issues such as noise phobias or thunderstorm phobias or stranger danger, concerns, or they have no sense of self-occupational skills where they can sit and chew on their own. So you're constantly analyzing not only the anxiety and building on their ability to be calm and be left home alone without being in a panic state or ruining the house. But you're also working through how do you build those extra skills such as self-calming, self-control skills, self-occupational skills, working through the noise sensitivities and any other issues, and how do you coach the clients? And yes, you can do this. It is possible. You can succeed. Because, I remember when I started in this field, so many separation anxiety dogs were given up for adoption. I can't live with this. My dog's destroying my house. My dog's screaming, and my neighbors can't handle it. So these dogs go back to the shelter, and then they go to another home and another home. We know they just keep going in this rotation, and it just keeps getting worse. These poor dogs are just, the anxiety keeps building. So it's just, I think a lot about the separation anxiety work I do. And I think it's one of the most, what's the word? I just find the most rewarding work I do, because I see the day-to-day, moment-to-moment recovery of these dogs, and I see the owners gaining such joy, because I know they have a love-hate relationship. I love my dog, but I can't stand the situation. I wish I could go out to dinner with my friends, and I can't. I had one client, we graduated just recently, Rachel, a lovely little terrier mixed dog. And she just adopted this dog, and it took us 4 months, truly 4 months, to get to a departure duration where she could be out of the house for 5 minutes. And I just well, Rachel, I love you, because she was so dedicated to this dog. And we made, the progress was so minimal, but we kept making progress. And as long as she saw progress, she kept going, and we kept having to work on, okay, let's work on, new issue would come up, let's work on that issue, and then put that back into the program. Let's work on this issue, put that back in the program. Well, she made it all the way. After we got to approximately 15 minutes, oh my gosh, that dog had it. I can, go ahead, go out and party. I'll be here. I'll be fine. But it was that breaking it down and finding ways to help her succeed. Not only the dog succeed, but finding ways to help Rachel succeed. And helping her dog, this lovely little terrier mix, make it and find that sense of peace. And I think, to me, that's awesome. Training's fun, but when you're giving a dog and an owner a better relationship, and you're giving a dog a better sense of ability in this world to have a happy life, that's an awesome thing. I think that is just that's what gives me joy. That really gives me joy to know that I've given that to somebody's pet, that they're because every every day should be better for all of us. Every day should be better than the day before, right?
Yes, I love that. Really good. So much stuff that you said there. We could spend a whole nother podcast talking about some of the things that you were talking about just now. But with the separation anxiety, I'm going to ask you a couple things about that real quick. It definitely does sound like it is super rewarding and super intense as well. It's not something that I work on with people. I usually refer out to that. So good to know. I can refer out to you for that. And you love working on that kind of a case. Do you find, you said that this little terrier who you were working with, when he or she made it to 15 minutes, then it was just sort of like it opened a whole new world for them, and they started being able to be gone longer after that. So with your separation anxiety, folks, do you find that there's often a time that serves as almost sort of a cusp or something that once they hit a certain time, their ability to stay alone increases sort of exponentially? Or is that, do some people always, it's just incremental, a little bit more time? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it does make sense. I won't say there's a specific time of say 15 or 20 minutes.
Right. And that's not that's not quite what I mean. Not a specific time across the board, but does each dog kind of have like their own time that like, now I hit this and the world is sort of opening up?
I have found in the years that I've been doing separation anxiety work, I have found that for most dogs, and I won't say for all dogs, for most dogs, there's a point where, they're getting this. And all I have to do now is just gradually build on that duration and the PDQs, those pre-departure cues. And with one client just recently, in the middle of our training, I'm pregnant. I have to start focusing on what happens when I have a baby and I take a baby out of the house, right? And we talked about that, and they've been in touch because they have had the baby. And everything is just wonderful because we talked about how to integrate that in. But with most dogs, I do find that they get to a point where it's like, I got it. And I just have to keep building that. But with other dogs, and I can tell you because my colleagues, because all of us CSATs, we do keep in touch. We do have our group. And I listen to some of the issues some of my colleagues have dealt with, and they're not the norm, but like, oh my gosh, we've been at this for over a year and we just had another huge regression. And we're back at square one. And I have had dogs make big regressions, but as the little terrier did, but then all of a sudden learn from those regressions and go forward. Or I'm thinking of Midori, after the violinist, Midori, who was a lovely hound mix. I loved her, that she'd make it so far. And then she realized, oh, I can hear people's car coming back. I'm going to start barking because you're home. And then she learned, oh, if I bark, you're going to come home. So we had to work on the FOMO issue, right? It's like we made it so far. It's like, oh, gosh darn. And with one dog, we were making great progress. And all of a sudden a neighbor moved in who was extraordinarily noisy. I mean, just extraordinarily noisy. And we had to, oh gosh, now we're back at square one. And now we have to work on, we know we built the duration. I really feel if we can work on the sound sensitivity concerns, which we found ways around that, we can start building very quickly again. So, the thing we say with separation anxiety is that, and as with any dog, right? It's always a study of one. Every dog's an individual. It takes as long as it does, just like a person who had PTSD or, a fear of heights or flying or whatever. It takes as long as it does. But I would say that I tend to find with the clients I work with, there's that, you get that touchy-feely where that, we're just about there. And some sooner than others, but there is that tipping point, right?
Very cool. And it seems like it's like that with other types of training too, that you see, as you just called it there, a tipping point where you're working on stuff, and then you're like, they seem to kind of quote unquote get it, and not always, but lots of times. How long, when did you do the separation anxiety certification?
I could look up the certificate because I have them all, but
it's okay. I was just curious.
I am thinking 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, very cool. And have you found stuff I know we have another question to get to, so I've got to stop asking questions now, but I'm going to ask you one more real quick before we move on. Have you found things from that training that you've taken that influence your other behavior cases and your other work some?
I would say yes, because, everything connects, right? Everything connects. So absolutely, you start, I think it's honed my skills in reading body language, because you're always watching these separation anxiety dogs. You're watching their body language so clearly for where's that tipping point of I can still settle, but no, now I can't resettle. So where is that? Where are we on our training missions, as we call them, and how do we guide the dog day by day? So I think it's made me much more conscious of breaking things down smaller and smaller. How micro can you get? So I think the two big lessons from that are really how micro can you get, and two, better abilities to read body language. And I think the third thing is just really building on that empathy to the owners, and really realizing that, my gosh, I lived it. Jolie was horrible. Separation anxiety. I get it. And that just that empathy, of supporting, even better at supporting people, knowing what they're going through.
And it seems like all of those things, how micro can you get, paying attention to another's body language and building on empathy would all be really good skills for somebody to have if they were somebody who wanted to only connect. So, so very good. Those skills tie in with your motto. Could you share with us now, and I know some of the things that you already talked about fit here as well, but maybe you have a story you could share with us now about a training situation, something related to training and behavior that you're proud of and or that you found reinforcing?
Gosh. There's so many. It's hard to pick one out, and when you're put on the spot. I'm going to go to birds. Let's go to birds. They have not been up on I don't think videos very much, but two lovebirds. And when I was very, very young, when I was just coming out of high school, I worked in an exotic animal pet store. And way back when, birds were captured, exotic birds were captured and then tamed. And I learned how to do that and was actually pretty good at it. And it horrifies me that I did that now, now where I am in life, it horrifies me that I did that. And I look at, the last two lovebirds, we decided I wanted to have birds, but I did not want to have the big, loud birds anymore. They came to me fairly wild, and just the training of, first the desensitization of, can I be this far away? Can I be just a little bit closer? And here's my hand holding your spray millet, and just the desensitization, and then actually taking that, and then just sliding very seamlessly into clicker training and making it just with my mouth and not actually getting clicker out yet, and working with little Odin, just adorable little guy, and actually building on, clicking when he actually stepped closer, and then reinforcing, and how much trust that built, and how different that was from my original days of taming, as teaching as opposed to taming, building trust as opposed to helplessness. And some of these birds, the one bird I kept from way back when was a sulfur-crested cockatoo named Timmy, who unfortunately, I can't think, there's an actual name for the disease. They did not know what the disease was back then, but Timmy lost all of his feathers and started having seizures, and I lost him. And now I can't remember what the name of it is, but there is a specific name for this disease now, and they understand it much better. But I lost Timmy, and then I did not have any birds after that. And these two little lovebirds, just such a different, and it's just so different. And I guess I'm just so thankful. I think that's really a word for me, is that I'm very thankful for the education. I'm very thankful for the opportunity, not only as an animal teacher, as a people teacher, but as a person in my everyday life, that I found more positive ways of communication and building on abilities, because it doesn't just, it's not just what we're doing with the animals, and it's not just what we're doing with the clients. It's us. It's and this has come up in the ATA, right, with the different books that Ryan brings up. Crucial conversations and such. It just keeps building on that. So I go back to I think very very much, and I was just thinking about that the other day, is just how much my training has changed over the years, and certainly with the birds, that makes a huge visual statement of I'm holding you in gloves until you settle, as opposed to I'm just taking my time and building trust, and then I'm reinforcing, and if you don't want to yet, that's okay. When you do want to, I'll be here. And then all of a sudden, and you talk about breakthrough, that tipping point, because you see that tipping point of I trust you, you're my buddy now, I won't leave you alone anymore. You must be with me, I must be with you. And it's such a different relationship, and it's very cool.
It's a great example, and I really appreciate the point that you made about it also being about us. When we strive to connect with others through our teaching and training, how that benefits us, and how that's something to be grateful for. I don't know that I've actually kind of thought that through in exactly that way before. So thank you for that.
It all connects. We know that everything connects. This probably came from physics somewhere, because I love physics, but everything connects. You can't do anything, you can't experience anything that doesn't connect with the next experience, right? So everything you learn, everything you do, everything you experience, hopefully makes you a better person and more connected, more empathy, more understanding, more ability. Hopefully we just keep growing from that.
Yes, I hope so too. I don't think I can build on that or dive any deeper into that. I think that's a perfect way to a perfect place to sort of wrap things up. So thank you for everything that you have shared with us today so far, Linda. Before we do wrap up, though, could you share with us about any opportunities that people have to learn from you, how people can reach out to you if they wanted to work with you on separation anxiety or any of the other things that you work on with people and their dogs, or just how somebody maybe could reach out to you if they wanted to get in touch?
Oh, absolutely. The website, www.inrelationwithdogs.com. Is probably the best way. There's a contact form there. My phone number's on there. You're welcome to text. You're welcome to call. I'm happy to talk with people. I'm always happy to help if I can.
Well, thank you so much. And we will link to that in the show notes as well. Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been just such a pleasure being able to get to know you better. I do think that when I joined ATA, some of your videos with Dewberry were some of the very first ones that I saw, and it's been a pleasure getting to learn from you for years now and getting to know you more here. So from myself, on behalf of ATA, on behalf of everybody listening, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Shell. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it.
We do, of course, appreciate all of you tuning in as well. And if you have enjoyed this episode and are interested in carrying on the conversation about working with the animals in our lives in the most positive, most fun, and most choice-rich ways, then as mentioned at the start of this episode, the Animal Training Academy community is waiting for you. Head on over to www.atamember.com and click on the membership button in the main menu to learn more about what members are describing as the Netflix social media platform for behavior geeks. That's it for this episode, though. Thank you so much for listening. You'll hear from us again soon.